Hey, how's it going? I almost forgot to click start streaming. How you guys doing? It's been so long, like a couple weeks, right? Okay, so I was just finishing this up. I twisted this elastic on this pattern holder. I don't think I've done that since I first started sewing these like 10 years ago. And I was at a show handing it to someone and I was like, wait, that elastic looks funny. And I knew it. I had twisted it. So I'm just replacing it. I'm not sure about these scissors. So hello, I am Sarami, and this is Sew Live, where I like to sew live in front of you. And usually I have a particular project picked out, but today I am just getting back from a trip and I didn't want to wait too much longer to stream because there's a lot of new people checking us out and we really want them to, because we really want to get a really great community going. Let me adjust the chat here. There we go. I can see. I haven't hardly talked at all this morning, so sorry my voice is a little scratchy, especially after this show too. Hi Leah, how's it going? Hello Ida. Yay, I'm back. There we go, there we go. Okay, now that's a little bit better. I couldn't see it all. My voice is just down getting back too. Like I kind of lose it at shows, but not quite. You know, it's more like it just gets really hoarse, you know, and then it slowly comes back. Hi Thea. So what have you guys been sewing? I feel like I just saw you, but it's been like almost 2 weeks, which is really weird. I had gotten no pictures of me wearing anything I've sewn here. Sorry, I'm kind of a slacker that way. I forget to ask. Hi, Malin. I forget to ask. I think about it, and then I'm like, oh, they're busy. You know, there's people in their booth, or there's too many people in my booth to ask someone to do that, you know? So, okay, let me check this. This is all straight, all good. This is one of my most requested products, and I really need every single one of them on the shelf right now. So I really can't, I can't let it sit here. Oh, are you going to Stitches, Leia? Ooh, the Inari tee. Yeah, I'm going to miss Stitches too, I'll be honest. I mean, I feel like it's my local show, even though it's 3 hours away. It's still like my local show. It's a really big show. And I feel like, you know, it was my first big show and I did it every year and people were just, it was just so great to see everyone there. So I do feel a little bad that I'm not going out on that show, but I just could not commit production-wise last year. Hi, Carol. I couldn't commit production-wise last year. I could tell something was starting and I just wanted to make sure that I could deliver, you know what I mean? So I'm really glad I trusted that hunch. Hi, Olivia. I mean, who knew that the fire was going to happen too, you know? So, oh, you're taking the train down there? Do you live in the Sacramento area? I can't remember. Because I know there's like the, what do they call it? The fiber train or something. And they take the train and it drops you off like almost right at the door because it's at the convention center. So, but Madrona was really awesome. Everyone's so lovely there, and we didn't hit any bad weather. I mean, we hit weather, but nothing like Brooke and I were really worried about. We left a day early, and then we had like almost 24 hours where we had nothing to do, and it was heavenly. Some of those hours were sleeping, you know, which was great. Oh, you live in San Francisco. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, so take good shoes, Leia. I don't know if you've been before, but take good shoes. And drink lots of water. It's a really fun show. So, yeah, I wish I could just pop down there, but I really can't. So, oh, so that's great. Gosh, see, public transportation is amazing. I could tell my glasses are filthy. Can you guys see that? Maybe it's just the scratch I put on there the other day. So the Inari tee. Who said that? Who's doing that? That one's cute. I like that. I almost like rallied yesterday. Oh, you went last year and bought a soft bag. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. Were you weren't there the year I brought my sewing machines then. I just got a memory on one of the social media things. I think Facebook said, this is what you were doing. And it was 2015. We brought not this machine, the machine, not that machine, my other two machines. And one was Rayanne's and now it's gone. But we brought our machines. I set up kind of like a buffet line. So you could sew, I think it was 4 different products that we had. And we pre-cut and kind of half prepped a lot of the pieces. It was so much fun, such a huge success. And then we sewed live down there for people, and they could pick out, I think, like the pocket and then the top and then the side, like of different bags, and then we put it together, and we just kind of, they came back, later on that day, or they could sit there and watch too if we weren't too backed up. So it was so amazing. I know the next year people were like, oh, was that not a success? Why didn't you do it this year? I'm like, I didn't do it this year because it's a lot of work. And I worried about my machines kind of going out of whack, like moving them around that much. So you're going back to sewing. Yay. I feel like I'm this little like person converting all these knitters to sewing right now, or luring them back. I have no guilt over it at all. I'm really into sewing. I have been for a really long time. I've been hanging out with the knitters. I've been knitting for a long time. I've, I'm not gonna say I paid my dues, but because I didn't need to pay dues, but you know what I mean. I had a great time doing that, and it's so awesome that there's so much great sewing stuff right now. Hi, Cass. Yeah, right? It was really cool. I mean, I couldn't believe they were just like, yeah, sure, you can do whatever you want. I was like, oh, okay. Well, we're doing this, and the transport of our machines down there did not go so well. They were fine. We were not. Like, I lost this battle with a bungee cord and smacked myself in the face, and I had double black eyes that whole show, and no one could tell. And Rayanne tried to rescue me. She was like, okay, when she wakes up, because I basically passed out after whacking myself that hard. She was like, oh, I'm going to bungee this thing so she doesn't have to. And then she did the exact same thing and put a hole through her lip, whacked herself too. So the moral of the story is, bungee the thing, like hook it away from you first and then pull it towards you. Do not hook it towards you and then pull it away from you, because then you can let go and go whack. And the thing is, my husband had given me different bungees, and I was like, I hate these things, like the buckle kind, the buckle straps. And, they're so much safer. That's why he gave them to me, and I left them. Oh, cool. That's awesome. Definitely, Leia, do that. I love seeing you guys on Instagram. I'm like looking at all these little specks. I'm like, is that on my monitor or on the machine? I chipped my machine when I did put those rivets in the other day. Yeah, right, Mullen? Yeah, that's awesome. Hi, Michelle. That's kind of how I feel, Mullen. Like, I love knitting, but I just live somewhere so warm that I felt like I don't know, I just felt like I didn't need any more sweaters. I wasn't even getting to wear all my sweaters throughout the winter because it doesn't get cold enough here. And I don't like wearing them. I could wear them every day, but then if I bring them to work, they get a little bit like, it's just not nice to them to be around work with them. Right? I know, Olivia. Oh, cool. You're almost done with your mountain views? Nice. You're finishing, yeah, I know. Finishing the edges, especially if you're using zigzag. You can do them together, though. You don't have to do them separate edges like I did. I just did that because I didn't want to pop back and forth, But if I were by myself, I would sew the seam and then I would finish the edge. It looks like Leia's going. Michelle, you guys could have a meetup. Send you sweaters, Carol. Are you cold? I love knitting. It's awesome. Okay, so the things I have to sew today are, I have an Archer button-up that's been cut out for forever. It's dark fabric, so I'm going to tell you guys the things I have. This is the Archer button-up I have. Isn't it great? Like, the back of it is these individual stitches, which creates the polka dot on the outside. This is the right side of the fabric. And then I have to sew project bags. So look, they're all smashed in my bin, but see, look, I don't know if you can see. See, so this is the bag. So I have to put the ends on them still. Oh, you guys should totally meet up. I would love that. At the knitting show, you're having a sewing meetup. See? Hi, Nancy. That's my little, what is that? I'm like corrupting knitting world. So I have these to sew, and then I have another one like where I have to put the ends on. It's just the pocket bucket. So I don't know if you guys just want to chat and you don't really care what I'm sewing. So, but if you guys have a preference, I'll sew either one. Yeah, I know, right, Malin? It's really soft, too. Like, it's really soft and drapey. Like, I actually can't wait to wear this. I actually keep thinking it's in my closet because I have something similar that is polka dot and navy blue and a button-up. And I think it's the one I made. And I'm like, oh, I didn't make this. But it's a little too short. I'm looking forward to this one. I shortened my yellow flower one by 2 inches right before I left on my trip. I was just like, this thing is so big. Yeah, I know. That fabric's great, Nancy. Yeah, the llamas do really well at the shows. But I just posted everything on my website yesterday. I know a lot of you don't darn in the chicken boots world, which is my business. But this is it. Like, I'm selling off everything. It is crazy, you guys. Closing a business is so weird. It's so weird, especially when it's doing really well. Like, I feel a little overwhelmed, you know. Maybe you guys could direct message on Instagram, Michelle and Leah. Maybe you guys can meet up. Thanks, Carol. So in the entryway before you go into Stitches, there's the escalators and there's a Pete's behind it. Those are good landmarks. And then indoors, well, you could do the information booth, which I think moved to where my booth was. I'm trying to think of you could meet at Brooke's booth, Sincere Sheep. She's kind of in the indie section. That was near where my booth was. She's the moderator you see in here. Maria, too. A needle runs through it. Amazing sewer, you guys. Amazing sewist. You know, I think, Nancy, my thing with my archers is that I forget that the seam allowance at the neck is a 1/2 inch or 5/8. And I end up sewing it at a 1/4 inch, and then it doesn't fit as well. Thanks, Michelle. I'm excited too. I'm nervous because it's pretty much ready to go, but I haven't had time actually to like move in. Like technically I can move in right now. They gave me a free month, which was February, but I was here like 9 hours a day sewing. Oh, Tiki paper doll, it's cute. I'm pretty sure, Michelle. It's my mom's birthday, to be quite honest. So every year at Stitches, it's my sister, my niece, and my mom's birthday on the 22nd and 23rd. And I've missed their birthdays every year since I've been at Stitches. And so I was going to see my sister when I was up at Madrona, and the weather made me really nervous because I was kind of worried I'd get stuck on the other side of the passes and not be able to go home. Right, Nancy? Yeah. Yeah, and my neck sits up high. Like, it sits up high onto my neck, not down here on my, like, shoulders. I think that's why. But, so I ended up leaving early, so I didn't get to see my sister on her birthday, but I did just see her at Christmas time, and I sent her package, like, right when I got back, and then my mom is here in town, so I get to see her on her birthday, or at least close to it, for the first time in years, you know? So, and, you know, it's not like I would come home and we'd immediately celebrate a birthday. It would be, like, 3 weeks later when it all worked out for all of us. So I always felt just like, this isn't, you know, like, it's my mom, you know? So I want to stay here to celebrate her birthday. And my family's really glad I'm home. My husband's traveling again, too. So otherwise I would. Plus, I'm not even going to tell you how many orders I got last night. Fine. But Michelle, I have been working on the idea of streaming on Twitch at the same time because I've talked to a couple people about it. So I'm pretty excited to get that going. And I think what I can do too, you guys, is have 2 monitors and then 2 more cameras hooked up to the other monitor. And then that way it'll be easier for me to switch between machines. Because right now I can't add another camera to my monitor. It's going to just be like, I would love to do a meetup. We should meet at a fabric store, though, you know. I can't have other cameras hooked up to this unless I get a different brand, because my machine or my computer's like, yeah, you have one camera hooked up. So I had to trick it into letting me do these two cameras because they're identical. So weird. Like weird technology stuff. Yeah. Yeah, right, Michelle? I know. So anyway, what do you guys want me to sew? Do you guys have a preference? I know there's a little bit of a delay. And the gal that made my Niffler artwork for my Harry Potter thing a couple summers ago, she's making me a new YouTube banner. I can't even stand looking at my YouTube banner. It makes me cringe. But she's making me one, and it's pretty cute. I'm excited to show it to you guys. She's like cruising through it. So she's gonna start helping me make me look a little bit more professional and polished. And then I'm gonna switch over my Chicken Boots site. The shirt? I can do the shirt. Our shirt? Okay. Yeah, you're like clothes. Leave that work stuff back there. That's kind of how I feel too. I told myself like I didn't have to sew when I got back, but I do have these things almost done, so I'm definitely going to do it. All right. Cool. Let me switch my thread over to navy blue. I had it on for that elastic. Ooh, I cut that really short. There we go. I want to make more shirts too. I almost cut something out for today, and I was like, it's okay, Sarami, that you don't. You have something cut out, and you have some stuff to sew. Why is there a scrape on my hand? I don't remember doing that. My hands are a wreck, so don't look at my hands. They are a wreck right now. I think just changing climates a lot, and it's like, I don't want to say it's drier up there, but it was definitely different. All right. Luckily, I have a few navy blue bobbins, so that's easy. It was easy to choose this for me. Let me feel my needle. I can't remember when I changed it last, but I'm going to change it anyway. I like a new needle. Plus, this one's probably a size 18, and I really don't need a size 18. I always check the tip of my needle. I know, Nancy. That's so exciting. I have, I have some needle sharp boxes to catch up on, by the way. It's kind of crazy to think about the fact that soon all I'll have is this to do. I'm pretty excited. So if you're new here, welcome. And if you would like to chat with us, we would like you to chat with us. You just need to create a YouTube channel. It's just their way of creating an account. That's all. And we can see your username. We can't see your name. You can pick whatever name you want. I can't see who watches my stream, just so you guys know. I can't see who likes it or dislikes it or is watching. I can only see how many people are here. That's it. And even that number is probably always changing. I'm trying to decide if I should keep the machine behind me. It feels like a little bit overkill to keep it. Like I could sell it, or I could keep it, take the binding attachment off of it and keep it as a second machine. But I don't know. It's hard for me to let go of a machine. It's probably worth, like $800 to $1,000. So it's not like a huge deal if I keep it. Let's see, what size am I making? I cut this out so long ago, Malen. My bust is usually a 37, so whatever would go with that is about the size I would make. And mine is a little roomy as well. And I think it's a pretty boxy shirt. I would really like to do one that's a little more tailored with some darts in it. Oh, I don't know the chemo. What's the chemo? Kimono. Oh, ooh, bummer. Yeah, Melinda. You know, I saw another subscription box. What was it? Someone was talking about. It looks a little different. Keep it, you never know. Yeah, the machine. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking, Michelle. I'm just going to keep it because I never know. Yeah. And you know, I'm not always sewing with you guys. So sometimes it is nice to have two machines cooked up with two threads. I'm going to hem these pockets first. I didn't pre-treat any seam, so why is this? Do you think this? Wait a minute. Oh yeah, is this a double hem pocket? I remember. Yeah, exactly, Malin. I think I'm going to maybe add a little contour at the waist on one of them. This pocket looks a little like this pocket, but it doesn't have the pleat in it. Oh, yeah, I bet. The UK, man, they're going off with the fabric and the sewing right now. I'm going to iron these. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to treat myself and iron first. It's, you know, like, why do I feel like it's treating myself? I should just do it, right? It's like me and Rayanne used to joke, like, you know how when you have to go to the bathroom, you're like, okay, after this last thing, I'll go. And I finally was like, it's not a treat. I have to go to the bathroom. I'm just going to go. And sometimes one of us will just be running in there. It's not a treat. Yeah, I think, I don't remember the Archer pocket. I'm looking for the notches. So that for me means fold, fold. And you can tell, like, I guess there are lines on this. I did it so that the lines were this way because that's the green line. I'm not watching that, Michelle. I'm going to, though. I haven't been able to watch anything lately. I have been listening to a lot of books, though, which is awesome. Because I usually listen to a lot of books. In the last year, it kind of fell off because of all kinds of, like, weird little reasons. Like, we started and stopped. But I listened to 2.5 books on my way up to Tacoma and back. You can't watch it illegally. So maybe that's why. Because you're in another country from us, too. Is that on, how are you watching that, Michelle? You're watching it? Okay. Yeah, so maybe I'll watch it online. All right, I'm going to iron this real quick. Now I can't find my notch. Oh, there. Okay. There's one. I mean, I know they're polka dots, but they are in a line, so I don't want them to be crooked, you know? Like, can you see that? It's a line. It's not an all over dot. It's a woven. It's a yarn dyed woven. Okay. Oh, I didn't sew first. Shoot. Which means I probably have, all that thread. You probably can't see this, but watch. This is why I sew a little bit before I start sewing on my project. That's all. That's the tail of my bobbin thread. That's why I always sew a tiny bit first. Oh, daily motion. Daily motion. Oh, okay. Cool. I can stream it. That would be fun to watch here. Sometimes I will do that. I will just watch things on my computer since it's facing me here. I have my computer on a Lazy Susan, so I can rotate it facing here. Oh, okay, cool. The web. It's just amazing. All right, so I'm gonna center this over my pin. See, I haven't looked at this in forever, but I know that where my pin went in is where the marking is. It's always good to figure out what works for you. It doesn't matter what you do, right? As long as you're consistent. I'm gonna bring them up a little bit like that, because usually the drill hole is not on the sewing line. It's kind of just inside of it. And I'm just kind of looking at the lines on the shirt too, making sure that I don't get it crooked. Because it might not look crooked now, but it might later. You never know with these subtle stripes. There's so much lint on this poor thing since it's been sitting here. All right. That was really fun. I met a lot of people at Madrona that seemed interested in the stream. I didn't tell every single person, but you know, it would come up like, why am I leaving? Why am I stopping? And this isn't why I'm stopping, but this is a really good reason to stop, right? It's like, oh, it's so nice to have something to go to that I love. Ida, yep, exactly. They were getting kind of serious about that like a year and a half ago, and it seems like they've let up on that. All right, I'm going to, I always start my pocket upside down because I'm going to go like this, this, this around. And I do a little triangle right here at the top. It's not like I put a lot of stuff in my pockets, but that's just to reinforce the top so that you don't rip it off of your shirt. And I'm going to fold down this little seam allowance. Is the lighting okay? You want me to brighten it up, you guys? How about I brighten it up a little bit? I think my camera's drifting a little bit today. Like it keeps moving. I'm gonna brighten it up a little bit. Since we're going with the blue. What noise? Hello, Whirlwind. Do you hear something? It's dead silent here, except for my clock ticking. Do you guys hear something? I don't know. Is that better? It's a little bright, I know. Here, I'll do this so it's not blowing out your eyeballs. Yeah, I'm gonna check out the BBC. I have Acorn, but I don't think that's like stuff that's happening every week. It might be. I haven't looked at it in a little bit. I love Acorn. And I know people have like BritBox. So I'm going to fold, see this little corner here? I'm going to fold this like down like a little triangle like that. I'm going to tuck it in there because there was a little notch. The way I notched my thing, like I clipped in for my notch, it's leaving this. Oh, the thunking. Are you hearing the thunking? This? That's my presser foot. Okay, so it's a good spot to explain why my machine does that. And it's because I have an electronic industrial machine, and the electronic part of that means, yeah, that's it, Whirlwind. It's my presser foot, sorry. Yeah, so it is because when my foot is on the foot pedal down below the machine and I lean back with my heels, it raises the presser foot like this. And so when I am not, when it's up and then I haven't been like, I haven't set it down, I haven't started sewing, it gets tired of me, it gets tired of waiting on me, and then it slams down. And it's a safety thing so that like something doesn't get under there or something. Yeah. So, and I understand it's really loud. So this machine is new to me. I got it last summer because my old industrial machine died. And the electronics on that were different. So I had a knee lift. So I used my knee and it didn't do this. It was different. So I'm not very elegant about it yet. And so sometimes it like goes up and down. It's totally me and my machine. I actually asked him once, I was like, can you make this quieter? And he said, I can't make that quieter. He tried, but he just couldn't. All right. Fold down this little corner. So yeah, so right now it's up, but if I don't start sewing soon, it's gonna slam down. So my other thing on my machine does is I can set it up to automatically back tack. If I pressed my heel down a little bit harder, it would do that for me, and then would cut the thread and spit it out. So that's kind of what the electronic, see right now, I just let go of the pressure. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you guys get used to it. That's so funny. At the beginning, I was not used to it. I was like, I'm sorry I keep slamming down the presser foot all the time. Because I'm a noob at this machine. I keep whacking the microphone. I don't have it in the right spot. Yeah, it's so much louder than my old machine. It's better, though. I really like this machine. I'm trying to honor the stripes, you know, keep my stripes straight. So I'm going to press this down and press that and just kind of enclose it. Like that. This is hard for me to see. Can you guys see that okay? You don't even hear it anymore either. That's really funny. I've conditioned you guys. I know when you guys start hearing your machines do it yourself, like you're just like superimposing, I'll have made my mark. Oh, Carol, just practice. And you can't see, like it looks really straight to you, but like it's not that good right there. It's a little bent. See that? I just don't obsess about it. I have in the past, trust me. Okay, so I'm going to set that one aside. Here's my other one. I'm going to leave it on the screen so that it doesn't get too bright for you guys. This one seems so close. Doesn't this have a... Nancy, I know you've sewn this. Does this have a placket? Where's the placket? Why is this so far over? Like this one has this, right? What's on this side? I don't see a placket anywhere. It just seems really... That's not enough room. I may need to cut a placket. Maybe I didn't cut that piece. Okay, good. I'm glad the lighting's pretty good. Yeah, it's not as dark as my denim, huh? Yeah, my pet peeve is when little threads poke out my pockets, especially on my butt. I really hate that. That's awesome, Carol. Are you still, you're the one doing the mountain views, right? I have to say I'm pretty happy with how those wore all day. I thought by like lunchtime I'd be doing the little shimmy shimmy Cocoa Pop to get them up, you know? You know what I'm talking about. But they were actually pretty good. I think I can go like a half size down. I think starting snug would be good. I'm definitely going to make another one. Oh, I just saw those today, Malin. Yeah, I was trying to look at those because I saw the pattern pieces and I was like, what the what? What are those pattern pieces doing? And I could not, I was kind of hoping someone would have made like a color block version so I could just see the seams. I didn't like the way they look like they fit in the front on her post today. But then I looked back through the feed and then those are really cute. No placket. So that's not enough space. Is that enough space? Okay, let me look. Maybe I got my pocket markings not so great. All right, take out my pins. I'm just throwing pins in here, so wait, let me put them on. You know how I get about this. I'm just like throwing them onto my cart because I can't reach the pie. There we go. I wish I had a cute little label to put in the pocket. I need to come up with a label, you guys. Yeah, oh, okay. The seam lines are colored in. Okay, okay. Yeah, exactly, Carol. No placket, Nancy. What? Okay, so if I... Why is that cut? Maybe I didn't have enough fabric and I told myself, you need to cut out a placket. I mean, like, this is... Let's say I did that. Let's do it near here. So I did this and this. So I don't have that right. Let's see. Because this one has one. Yeah, right? Okay, that's what I thought. But this one has the full on. Like, here's my notches, you see? Hi, caramba. What did I do? This is probably one of those moments where I was like, I'm not sewing this for the live stream, so I can do whatever I want. And here I am like, what did I decide to do? So, yeah, I need a placket there. I probably didn't have enough fabric because this fabric might be narrower, and I just thought, oh, I'll cut a separate one out. I have enough fabric to do that, so it's okay. It is, and this is, yeah, it's right over left, so this is the top one. Yeah. Okay, let's prepare the back. I have my yoke here. So there's no pattern piece floating around there. It's like an empty shelf with cubbies. Ooh, I love this fabric. You know what's funny is I saw it at the fabric store recently when I was making the Thea Rochelle raglan, and I was like, oh, I still love that fabric. Don't you love it when that happens? Now, one thing I notice with this is there's never enough for a pleat on mine. See that? Every time I cut this out, there's not enough for a pleat. And I keep telling myself to fix the pattern, and I forget to. I think I might have like a badly printed one, like one that got changed and didn't get called out or something. So then again, maybe I did some weird thing here too. All right, so I'm going to do my little sandwich. I'm kind of tempted to put this as the outside. What do you guys think? Hello, Louise. How are you? We're making the Archer button up. I wasn't sure what I was going to do today. You guys think I should do that as my yoke? I don't want it to snag is why it's really close though. See, these are like individual threads. Can you see that? Can you imagine seeing the machine that does this? Very cool. Ooh, I really love contrast and things like that, but I think I'm going to go just all polka dots. I'm not going crazy this time. I mean, it's hardly crazy. You're like, yes, why not? Why not? All right, so I'm going to line up my centers. That is so far off right there. I've made this pattern a lot. So don't judge by the way I'm sewing it today as how it actually usually goes together. Yes, contrast. You guys like the contrast? You think so? All right, I'll do the contrast. Then I can say my chat made me do it. I didn't get very far. I'll do the contrast on the inside and the outside. I did a double back tack, of course, because I knew I was kind of far away from the side. I don't know. That is like crazy sauce. Oh, thanks, Louise. Yeah, I love that fabric. Every time I wear it, I'm just like, oh, I love this fabric. That was by a Japanese company I hadn't heard of. Malin. Yeah, they still have some of it too. I keep thinking, why is that still sitting on the shelf? But that store does cater more to quilters. But it is totally acceptable weight for quilting. I'm going to do the polka dots on the inside because that is contrast on the inside. Right? Yeah. Yeah, don't judge the way this is going together by their pattern. This is a great pattern. I've probably made, I think I've made 4 of these so far. It's my 5th one. Oh, Nancy. Nancy. That at least has some darts, so you could take that in a little bit more if it's too big. I like the Astra a lot. That's by Colette. This one's by Grainline Studio. My first 2 that I made through Sprout Patterns. So they were both spoon flower fabrics. And they were printed directly on the fabric. I'm going to go all the way in. I'm going to trim this off. You'll see what I'm going to do. So now we have, this is the outside and this is the inside. That looks really cool. Maybe I should make this the back of my shirt. No, it's a little busy. Oh, that's cute. That's cute, Leia. I love bias. That must have been tricky doing that yoke on the bias because I did that on the, what was the Placket top? The Cheyenne tunic. And even the pattern designer was like, oh my God, you did that on the bias? Yeah, that was brave. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that because it was rayon. It was all over the place. It was all kinds of crazy. I was trying to make it look like I wasn't having trouble with you guys, but I was having trouble. You could see. Alder, there's a lot of A-titled things, aren't there? The Willamette or the Seamwork Natalie. I haven't. The Cheyenne was the by Hey June, right? But it doesn't quite have a collar. I mean, it has like a collar stand, but that's different. Are you on Seamwork, Malin? I think I just got some denim to do that. Oh, look at my lines, though. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Does it show that they're off a little bit? It's a little bit. I'm going to take this out right here, and I'm going to try and make it so that it looks less of a stripe. That's going off astray. Maybe you guys didn't notice it. I'll show you in just a second. I have to be a little more cognizant working on that side of the fabric because the stripes are way more obvious. I know, right, Nancy? It was wishy-washy. I think the easiest rayon I've ever sewn was that Charlie Kaftan I did in the floral for the needle sharp box. That rayon was just lovely. Oh, man. Oh, I hate dark stitches. Let's see here. I think I double did it again. This is why I don't over sew. Like, I feel like when I was a beginner sewer, I over sewed things because I was worried it would fall apart, you know? Or I was worried I forgot to do it, so I did it again. And also, people will make the stitch length really short. Oh, nice, Malin. Yeah, I need to look at what I have some credits on there. And so I don't think that's okay. Your stuff's not going to fall apart. It's a lock stitch machine. You know, there's 2 threads sewing your stuff together. It's just not going to fall apart unless you're using thread that's 30 years old and breaks easily. That's the only way it's going to, or it's washable thread, like the stuff that dissolves, you know. So it's not going to fall apart. So don't use extra long. Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie. Hi. Oh, I know how to say your name. Shoban, right? Oh, you can't watch something beyond there? Oh. Jeannie, this is a Juki 8700 industrial machine. Just a single needle. Single needle denotes the fact that it only goes straight. I do not have zigzag. Yeah, they were talking about that, Shioban. That we might not be able to watch it here. It might be pirated. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit further back. I already started top stitching this. Where'd it go astray? See that? I just want this line right here to show. And I started top stitching it. It stopped right there. So I'm going to go like a little bit further. I'm just going to make it a little more evident. Yeah, the BBC player might only work there. Hey, right, Nancy? I know. I saw it a lot with my this thing I used to do at a high school, this really amazing art program that had a mentorship thing. They would have industry professionals. I was considered an industry professional, which was so flattering. And they would put on a fashion show every year. And they had to come up with 4 different looks that walk down the runway. They don't have to sew them themselves, but most of them did, of course. And, all right, so let's see. The line that I want to show is this one right here. Okay, so I'm going to stitch just on the other side of it. Yeah, but those guys, those students typically would make their stitches like microscopic, and it was so hard for me to rip it out. Maybe you could look up the list of what the episodes are, so then you can kind of jump around and make sure you get them in order. That way you don't get spoilers. Because isn't that a show where they eliminate people? I'm just going to go right on the other side of this line so that it looks like I sewed in a straight line. And it pretty much is. Wait. It's playing a number on my eyes. It's doing a number on my eyes. Let's see. It's this one here, this one here. Look, it's going to get a little narrow right there. So you know what I'm going to do? I am going to pull this down a little bit so that I don't shortchange the rest of it. And then I'm going to trim this up here. Because if I sew this, if I just keep getting narrower and narrower, this whole thing will get, that whole seam will have like this seam allowance here, and then it'll get smaller right here, right? So what I'm going to do is shift this down a little bit so that the seam line is still in the right spot on the rest of the pieces. I'm going to fake it. Like that. Let's see, do I have my straight line? So now I have my white line going all the way across. And then I'll look and see how it doesn't line up here. And I'll trim this one to match this one. Now, where did I stop? At least it's really hard to see my top stitching. Like, you can't see my start-stop because you know that bugs me. Okay. Yeah, I really did a number when I cut this out. It may be okay though. Maybe that's where it was. I'm going to do French seams today because I didn't plan on sewing this. This is something I cut out a long time ago. I just wanted to go live today because it's been a while and I didn't, there's a lot of new folks because I've been traveling, and so I didn't get to go live last week. And so I just thought I would just pull whatever I have sitting here. So I probably cut this out on the fly, and I probably made some alterations as I did it and forgot. So like right now, I'm going to blend this in right here. I'm actually going to make this a little bit nicer of a curve right here too. I don't typically sew like this. But yeah, I'm going to just do French seams because I don't have them pre-serged. If I were alone sewing this, I would just serge it. But I would have to jump to my other machine, and I don't really want to do that on camera. That was the worst cut job ever. Okay, so this is the outside. Do you like your contrast choice, guys? So I'm not going to hand sew my shoulders though. I do this like what people call a burrito method, but I don't do the whole burrito. I just do each one individually like this. So we'll move this one right there. So what I do is I line it up, and I'm going to line it up at the neck because remember I just trimmed my shoulder. I don't actually mind that I trimmed that much because typically I like things to sit on my shoulder a little bit more. And if I find that this is a little bit shallow, which I can tell it's not just because I know kind of my shoulder width that I like, I'm going to make the seam allowance a little smaller right there. That's how I'll kind of reclaim some of that. So I'm just doing French seams. I won't have to serge at all because a lot of folks don't have a serger. I like to kind of offer a way to sew something together completely finished without having a serger. And with this shirt, honestly, the only place that you need to finish the seams is the armhole and the side seam, and that's it. All the rest of it is enclosed in the yoke or the collar for the neck. So it's a pretty good one to just cut your teeth on French seams. A lot of people don't like doing French seams on armholes, but it's really not that bad. I actually like it. Oh, good, Michelle, I'm glad. Yeah, Malin, I'm going to admit, I don't understand how the burrito works. Every time I see it, I'm like, I don't understand that. It's probably because I figured this out on my own, so that it makes sense to me. You know how you just have to figure something out on your own? You're just like, okay, shut off all the distractions. I'm going to sit here and not get up till I figure it out. That's kind of what I did because I don't like to hand sew. I know, let the drinking game begin. So I just do this. I just flip it like this, line it back up at the shoulder. I know all these edges go together like this. I don't pin it. I just know that these 3 edges start right there. I get it going on my machine. And I'm going to straighten it out as I go. So there we go. So now I'm going to start with the bottom layer. I kind of start with that one, and then I line up the next one. I try not to pull it all because your shoulder seam is typically cut on a little bit of a diagonal, so you don't want to end up stretching it out. And I just sew it as I straighten it little by little. That's right, it doesn't line up, so I gotta remember that too. So there it is, and then I just pull it and it's done like that. This is the outside. So now it's completely enclosed. I don't have to hand sew anything. French seams on armholes. Really, Nancy, after all this time, the French seams on armholes terrify you? No. I don't want you terrified. Okay, same thing. So this is how I know, like this is the outside, this is my back and it's the right side. This is my front, it's the right side. So I lay it there like that. I pick up the back and the front and then I flip the inside yoke around like this. I know it's lined up at the shoulder and neck seam, and that's where I focus. And I just get it going right there. You can pin it if you want, but I feel like the pins might bug you a little bit. You know, like they may be so fussy that you get a little turned around. Because this felt so wrong when I first started doing this that I would sometimes second guess myself and start over. And so I just started to trust myself a little bit more. I'm like, hey, what do I have to do? I just have to rip it out if it didn't work. Anything not to hand sew. Because that's what they used to say to do, is to hand sew. All right, so there we go. So now I have my shoulders. I'm going to continue my smooth transition of my armhole here. This isn't a really fitted shirt, so I feel like I have a little bit of leeway. Because who knows what I had to do when I cut this out. I feel like I may have had some fabric issues going on since that placket's missing on the front. Oh, I know what you know. I know what you mean, Nancy. I know, and I feel like that's why I'm always sewing set-in sleeves, because I love them. I feel like we're so much happier with the way things fit when we wear things with set-in sleeves. All right, so this is the outside. At this point, I could go either way, except that my pockets are right here. It's cute. Okay, so now we have the collar. So I am using the fabric as interfacing. You probably can't tell, but it's got a really soft hand. And the interfacing I'm using is a little boardy, so I don't really want it to get, I kind of want it to be like crumpled feeling, like kind of slouchy and cozy, this shirt, you know, so I didn't want to really add that interfacing. So I'm just using the self. So I cut a piece right before I started. These are my two good pieces, but what I want to determine is if I already trimmed off my seam allowance. There's a piece of washi tape on my ruler. So I feel like I didn't. Yeah, so I didn't. So I just need to remember that it's 1/2 inch seams. So I'm just going to treat this like one. I do this a lot. I did this a lot more before I started streaming with you guys. I just use self fabric as the interfacing. Okay, so that's ready to sew when my collar is ready to sew. So the under collar has a seam in it, and it's on the bias. It looks a lot more like an all over dot, doesn't it, when it's on the bias? Because see, this one's not, and this one is. Can you see the difference now? So look, this really illustrates the grain line. And then one of these is interfacing. Let's see which one it is. Oh no, there's my placket. I was wondering why I didn't need to cut a piece of interfacing for that. There's the placket. Yeah, totally. Try it. I've sewn. Which shirts have I sewn with the French seam in the armhole? I feel like I did the Archer that looks like yellow flowers. It's kind of a while ago, probably in October that I did that. And what else have I made? This one surged, so not this one. What? Oh, I think that the Cheyenne tunic has French seam armholes. So you can just fast forward to that part and see how I do it. I'm pretty sure that one. And that one was tricky because it's rayon and very like all over the place, you know? Right, Nancy? Well, I was listening to you, but I also was like, oh, it doesn't even matter what she says. I got to deal with this, like whatever craziness I did. All right, so I need to cut out some interfacing. Just a second, I'll be right back. I'm glad that I can keep going today too now, because I was a little worried about that placket. I was like, oh shoot, I may have to stop and cut that out, and then I would need to measure and blah blah blah. Okay, this one is not long enough. Okay. There's this one. I want to save one of these for my placket, but I might use regular interfacing for the placket. I really like it to be sturdy, you know. This is not easy to cut right here. I have to put a weight on there. This is my top collar, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to move this out of the way. I guess I can put this on the fold. I don't really like doing that on these pieces where the measurement's really critical, because fold always adds something. But it's my interfacing. I'm going to remember it's my interfacing. I'll just trim it off. Oh, the Hawthorne has French seams. Awesome. Oh, hi, Atrinka. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that sometime. Just keep reminding me. Yeah, I do sew buttonholes. Didn't I sew buttonholes on the Hawthorne, you guys, on stream? But it's not a jean waistband. You might, well, no, I was going to suggest someone, but she has a machine that does it. You might look at the Closet Case Patterns website, because they have so many resources on making ginger jeans. That still's off. I'm getting that right on the fold. I should have biased it one way so I didn't like cut that right in the middle, but there's really not much left of this. Oh, googly doogly. All right, there's that. Okay, so let's like, you have a little dog for your icon. It's really cute. Okay, let's sew the center back seam here of the under collar. The under collar is the one with the seam. The first time I sewed this, I sewed it accidentally with the under collar on top of the collar. You know, thankfully my hair is usually long enough to cover things. It's been really short a couple times in my life, but all right. Okay, so I want to remember that this is my good one, because that's the one I really want to follow. Yeah, I did do a buttonhole demo. It was kind of early on, still cutting my teeth here, but it wasn't on a jeans waistband, unfortunately. That doesn't look symmetrical. It's because of the bias. Okay, so an under collar is typically a little bit smaller, and that is because what you want it to do is kind of pull the collar under it. So if this is the collar, this is the top of the collar as you're wearing it, like, you know, like this. You want that under collar to be a little bit smaller so that it rolls the seams underneath and you don't have the under collar sneaking out on the top. And when a pattern doesn't have an under collar and you, let me make sure I got all that right sides together. And when it's all the same pattern piece, you can bet you're probably not going to be that thrilled with your collar, because it can't be the same size. It needs to be all different. I'm just lining these up. This fabric is not very accurate. Let's see here. So what they do is they shave off just ever so slightly a little bit of the under collar pattern. They shave it off like in between these 2 points. Like they'll shave it off like right here. Like dip down a little bit. This is weird. I'm on my left hand and I'm looking on the screen. And it's not as important on this short end here as it is on this long end here. So they go from 0 at this point, and then they come down about a fat eighth or like a little less than eighth actually in the middle to right here, and then they taper back up to the corner. And then that way, once you sew in your seam here, the top is a little bit bigger and kind of just gently rolls over. I know, Nancy, I know. You know, someone on Project Runway said it really well a long time ago. They were like, sewing pants is easy. It's like sewing 2 shirt sleeves together, and I've totally used that expression so often. It's the fit. Fitting pants is always the tricky part, you know? I feel like I could have cut this out a little better. All right, I'm going to trim all this down a little bit. I usually like doing this with a rotary knife. I feel like it's a little more accurate because you're pushing straight down. It's just a little awkward to cut here. I can barely see my stitches though. I'm so worried I'm going to cut through the seam. Sometimes when I'm cutting dark fabrics, I use these same lights because they're so great. So otherwise, it's just, I have like a warm incandescent. Yes, it's the top ones. The ones you want to put the interfacing against the pattern piece that is showing out to the world, because it'll have the less wrinkles, it'll be smoother, and then the piece that doesn't have it typically will be a little bit softer. So that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to turn this right side out. I want to do it correctly here. So right now it's confusing, right? Because all of my fabrics are the same. This is my interfacing piece. Sorry. These are my 2 right sides. This is the under collar, has the seam. See? This is the collar that's going to show to the outside of the world. Now, if this was sewn the other direction, it would be really easy to be confused by what was my top collar, right? And this was my interfacing. But this is how the collar is going to show to the outside world. So I'm flipping it with those layers like that. And then I just use my awl to pull up my points a little bit. I've experimented with that, Malin, like changing the where the interfacing is, like when I didn't really like my interfacing, and it didn't go so well. I just wanted to see if I could maybe change the way it would look, or you know, I've sewn things incorrectly occasionally, and ooh, yeah, trinket. Are you pre-washing the fabric that it's going to? And sometimes I think interfacing shrinks. I really do. Okay, so I'm going to am I going to understitch this or top stitch it? I'm going to top stitch it. Okay, I'm going to iron this though. And then I'm going to attach my stand. Just say, let me iron this. So if I were to understitch this, that means I would stitch on the under collar, and I would push the seam allowance towards it, and I would stitch through all thicknesses, and that way all of that is being pulled even further to the underside of the collar. That's understitching. It's only called understitching because you're putting it on the piece that's not showing. It's not because I'm putting it on an under collar. So you can do understitching on lots of facings and stuff like that. And I'm gonna do top stitching because it'll go through all the layers, and I kind of want, because this is such a soft fabric, I don't think it's going to make it look too stiff or boardy. So it's just an option. You can try it. Like when I did this green Archer for a local fabric store as a demo, the fabric was, I think it was like a Guatemalan or a yarn dye or something, and I don't know how else to put it, but it was kind of for a woven, it was kind of gushy, kind of fluffy. And I kind of liked that. So I left it so that all the top stitching was not showing and it looked kind of soft. So, and I actually like the way it turned out. That was a good call. But I do, on this one, I would like it to be easier to iron because I'm going to wear it more often and stuff too. It doesn't, it's not that it's going to change it too much. But, so a trinket, no, you would not do both, Louise. So on applying interfacing, you want the iron to be really hot. If you're using fusible, I don't use fusible. I use sewn because I don't like the bubbles. I call that cellulite. It kind of looks like cellulite to me sometimes, on some of them, especially the stiffer things. So I just sew it in. Oh, no, I actually do have fusible, don't I? I have been using fusible, haven't I? So, yeah, so I make sure it's really hot, and then I don't slide it, press it down, and then move it every however many seconds it says, and overlap it a little bit. Yeah, Malin, that's what I'm thinking too. You might have to press it a little bit longer. Does it lift up too easily? Because if it's lifting up too easy, like coming away from your fabric, it might not all be melted. Yeah, because you're basically gluing it to your fabric. So let me just press this really quick. Almost done. Yeah, me too, Carol. I've totally ruined fabrics with those bubbles. Okay, so can you see, this is the under collar. So there's the seam. You can see the dots are going like this, But can you see that the seam, that's the seam, and that's the fold of the top collar. So that's what I'm talking about. See the collar, this under collar was shaved away a little bit right there. So it's shallower. And so when I press this just now, I've been getting better about pressing it where I pressed the seam that way first, kind of like I do on a French seam. And then I pressed it along this edge. And so if you can see, like that's my fold line right there, but that's the seam right there. So that way, this is the collar that'll show up top, and I'm going to top stitch it through, and that's going to kind of solidify that. All the lint. I have lots of lint. Yeah, you might have better luck, Katrinka. I know that issue. I have that too sometimes. So top stitching and edge stitching can be about the same exact thing. Saying you're top stitching almost denotes that it's decorative. Edge stitching just means that you're doing it on the edge. I'm seeing this poke out, but it's my interfacing. I don't know if you can tell. I just need to trim it off. So sometimes you can use edge stitching and top stitching interchangeably, and you're not wrong. And neither is a pattern. I'm not going to back stitch. I feel like back stitching sometimes leaves a messy, thread stuff right there. And then when that's in the seam, it might show. This is a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so it's not going to show. But I'm always sewing collars and necklines at a 1/4 inch, so I forget. All right, so that is my outer collar. This is my under collar. They are all the same pattern piece when it's a collar stand. What I want to make sure I do correctly is put the outer collar to the outer stand. The only reason I know that this is the outer stand is it has the interfacing. So it's got 2 layers there. And I'm going to line it up. I have a notch right there. See, can you see? There's my notch. I just didn't notch the interfacing. Usually there is a notch where the stand goes to, but I don't see one. me make sure it's not on this one. Nope. And I'm gonna make a sandwich. So there's lots of ways to do this. When I get really nerdy about sewing collar stands, I'm going to trim this right here. It's bugging me. This is my inner facing poking out. I'm going to trim it so I don't accidentally go by it. I've gotten kind of nerdy about collar stands in the past. I haven't lately. But because I really want it to look good on the outside, I've developed a technique where I sew it all so that the last stitch is on the outside. It does make me a little bit nervous, and it probably makes other people nervous that I do it this way. But that way, when I finish it, the last stitch I'm seeing and everyone else is seeing is the one on the outside. And I'll show you what I mean. I know it's kind of confusing what I'm saying, but there are lots of ways to sew a collar and a collar stand so that you get it really nice and clean. And one of them is that they'll sew the collar stand. This is the neckline right here. They'll sew that to the shirt first and then do the collar stand, like finish this part afterward, so that your last stitch is this seam here under the collar and no one can see it. I would totally do that for you if I had practiced that, but I haven't practiced that in a little while. So I'm just going to do it the way I usually do, which is to say I'm going to sew this as one whole unit so that I have my collar and my stand all together. There's my notch right there. I'm going to get a few pins. I want it to be symmetrical. This fabric's so whooshy that I don't want it to get like stretched a little bit more on one side than the other. I got to remember that 1/2 inch seam allowance. It really makes it fit so much nicer on me around the neck. I wish I'd remembered that on the yellow flower one. It just seems so counter to how I want to sew it. 1/2 inch seams. So gigantic. It was the green one that I sewed. YOLO. You want me to do it the other way? No, I'm not up for YOLO right now. I want this shirt. I'm so glad I'm finally sewing it. But I like the spirit of the YOLO. I do kind of feel that way most of the time. I'm like, let's try it. My collar sandwich. Tasty. I try and when I get on these curves like this, I try and not stop sewing right there. And that's because, don't you ever notice like when you stop and kind of keep going, you get a little like jog? I totally get those. I'm going to get rid of these pins just in case any are poking through the seam, because I'm about to trim this bad boy right here, and I don't want to cut the tips off my pins or ruin my scissors. So typically in the garment industry, when you draft anything around the neck, it's 1/4 inch seams. Not talking knits. Knits are different. Knits are 3/8. That is why I'm always doing these incorrectly, and I'm sorry. There's a lot of things about production sewing that make a lot of sense and are easy to get used to. All right, so let's see. This is the right side here. I'm going to clip this curve a little bit. That just trimming it is not quite enough. I'm just going to do the curve. I'm actually going to do my new little scissors because the tips are nice and sharp. I didn't know Brooke was selling these little scissors, so I got a couple pairs from her. They're like, what did she say? They're from the Nixon era. They're dead stock. They must have been found somewhere. They're pretty good. They're really sharp. I like them. They're still a little thicker than I like. I like things to be a little narrower. This part right here this part, I want that to be a little bit narrower, and I want it to be a little narrower, and I like a really sharp, like a little tip. I know it's a little picky, but when you get right against things, the skinnier this is, I can get right down onto the fabric and trim threads, is what I found. I have a lot of scissors, like little scissors are kicking around the office here. All right, so I'm actually not going to top stitch, and it's because of my next step. I almost forgot. If I top stitch this down, I've just changed my seam allowance, and I can't get all the way to the edge. That would have been a big no-no. So I might need to deal with my placket now. So this is my top placket. That's so interesting. Why don't I remember this? This is so weird. Okay, I'm gonna iron this one, and do we think we have enough fabric left to cut a placket out? I don't really need the full width. I just need a little bit. Here we go. I just need a little bit. You don't really want to interface the entire width of your placket. I'm just going to do half of it, so 1.5 inches. So that means part of it will be in the seam allowance. Mustard color. Oh, that's good to know, Nancy. I'm going to look. I have some really nice gingers, and then I bought a ginger sharpening tool, and I don't know what I did wrong, but they have not been the same since. And it's just because I hadn't found a scissor sharpener here where I live. All right, I'm going to use the lines of the fabric. Okay. I'm just going to cut this out on the fly. I'm going to use math and logic to get it done. Right? It's a yarn dye. I can use the line of the dots. That's what I'm looking at right now. All I need my pattern piece for really is how long I need it, because I know how wide I want it. And I'm going to use the dots so that I know I'm cutting on the grain in a straight line. As straight as I can when you're watching. I know that was that straight. That's nice, Nancy. I wonder if they're hand stitching scissors. What I need to do is probably go to like a cross stitch store. Oh, I'm not even going to get 1.5 inches. Look at that. Let's see. What do I want to do? I could just get some interfacing. Maybe that's what I'll do. Let me go get some interfacing. I just want to make sure. I'll be right back. Okay, voila. I'm just going to use a fusible right here. Since the iron is hot, what was I going to do on here? Oh, I was going to iron my placket. Okay. You could watch the back of me iron, huh? So on this one is, it's just a self placket, see? Easy peasy. Getting rid of all my little thready lints. I don't want them in there forever. So yeah, see, Katrinka, I'm just like, I'm going to set it on here. And I'm just going to move it. Okay. Oops, sorry. So amateur, huh? Okay. Yeah, applique, exactly. Yeah, because the applique machines leave lots of little threads, and so they do have these really nice thin tips to trim all the threads. The same with embroidery machines. I used to work somewhere where we had a I think it was a 10-head embroidery machine. We had 2 of them. It was crazy. So like there was a huge machine. It was a long machine with 10 heads on it, all embroidering things, production style. It was so cool to watch. So I mean, you probably can't see a trinket that this is actually pretty good. I feel like I felt some bubbles right here. I have a little wrinkle there, though. That's what that is. And I just looked to see if it's all caught on there. I noticed that the Love to Sew podcast did a whole episode on interfacing. You know what? You shouldn't use steam, but I don't change the setting on my iron. I think that's mainly because it's so easy to get burned when your hand is really close to the steam. And you kind of keep your hands close when you're doing this kind of ironing. But if you look at the Love to Sew podcast, they have a whole episode. It's like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's really recent on interfacing. And I actually bookmarked it because I want to listen to what they say. Because I know there's new interfacings out there that I haven't heard of because someone else told me about one. So I'm going to check it out. Okay, so how does this go together again? I'm going to top stitch this right here. I ironed it down. The thing I worry about when when I stitch down something like this Placket is this starting to happen as I go down. Like my machine's gonna push this down and it's gonna start torquing. So I'm gonna put a few pins in, and these are gonna be like my benchmarks. Like I know when I get to that point, that's where it should be. So it's not like I'm pinning it to hold it for, like I'm trying to line something up. But I am in a way. I just don't want any torquing. Yeah, exactly, Nancy. That's what I need. I need some applique scissors. So I also know that I need to release the pressure of my presser foot. I like a really heavy pressure on my presser foot. And I probably can start lightening that up because I'm doing more garment sewing. So this is the adjustment right here on most machines. You see that? So mine has this, I have to loosen this up so that I can unscrew it. And then I tighten it back down like that. So the old school home machines will be there. New ones, not so much. You have to look in your book. Because I know on my Bernina, I had trouble to find it. So, and that is the pressure of this on my fabric. I like a heavy pressure because I like to be able to pull on my sewing and it not yank it out of the machine. You can do it, Nancy. I'll start sewing a little more with my home machine with you guys too. So I'm kind of holding this like this. I'm kind of curving it up like this. And I'm going to hold it taut because I don't want it to shift or start torquing. We just say no to torquing around here, right? You just got to know, like sometimes we think, oh, you know, something's wrong with the pattern, something's wrong with my machine. Sometimes you just got to work with the quirks of your machine, you know? Like if I had a machine for a long time where I could, the tension was okay, but the bobbin stitch just didn't look as nice as the top. So I had to sew everything blind from the top. So there we go. I didn't get any torquing. That worked out really good. There's no torquing, but you can tell like my lines don't match up perfectly. I'm not going to worry about that. That could have been a cutting thing, you know? These are such small dots that I probably didn't, you know, I wasn't that accurate. Yeah, Michelle, you know, once I have my machine, I have a sewing machine cabinet. I think that'll help the camera angles because, like, remember when we did that recently? What was I sewing on there? What did I sew with you guys on there? Oh, the last of my jeans, my pull-on jeans, the last stream. What I think is because the machine, the bed isn't flush with the table, it kind of hinders the amount the camera can see. Yeah, that's perfect, Katrinka. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I'm going to sew this. I'm not going to do that, actually. I don't need to do that. What do I need to do? I'm actually going to iron this, I think. I'm going to iron this. Why not, right? This way it'll help. I'm going to put this on backwards. But in the right way, I mean. Okay, I just did the worst press job ever. Let's see. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to do this from the inside out like I do on a lot of my things. Because this is the right side, and because I like my shirts to button right over left like traditional women's wear does, I'm going to sew it so that the last stitch looks the best. And so that means I'm going to sew it from the inside, from the non-interface side to the outside. Oh, look, it matches. Yay. I started realizing, wait, I wonder if my placket matches since I've done other kooky things here. All right, so I'm going to sew it at a 1/4 inch seam, just like this. Now I'm going to look to see how close I am to matching. And I'm going to make it match now. No problem. I do want my garment all up here though. It's kind of pulling. At least it's not heavy duty. Are we sewing this all the way through today, you guys? Should we take a break? Can finish it on Saturday maybe. All right, I'm going to press this real quick. Okay. I just untied my dress. Here we go. Okay. So. So see that? I did it from the inside, and now I'm going to do it to the outside. That way my last stitch looks the nicest. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of pin this so that I don't get any torquing again. This one's a little trickier because I have to turn it under and top stitch it. You're knitting, yeah, okay, cool. So you could iron this a little bit more. I'm probably just going to pin this, to be honest, and then sew it down. I can see where my seam line is, and so I just want to go just past that, like that. So there's lots of ways to do plackets. Plackets have not been, you know, they've been like reinvented over and over again. Oh, well, I could do one for you, Ida. I'll totally do one for you. I have to sew those. So maybe I'll put the placket on, and then I'll soak some bags. And then I'm hoping I can stream Saturday. I may go on a hike, but I think I can stream, and then we'll go on the hike. My daughter's really excited to go on this hike because she just got her license. I think I mentioned that. So she wants to know how to drive to this hiking spot. So she's like, let's go on a family hike, and then I'll know how to get here so that she can go whenever she wants. It's kind of cute. She really likes to go on walks and hikes with the dogs. Okay. This fabric really behaves so nicely. That's good, Nancy. Use it all the time unless you need to zigzag or make buttonholes. So you have a different machine for your zigzagging your buttonholes. Okay. This is lining up. Like, I'm really pleased to say it looks like I matched my stripes. I did not. Too small of a dot to finish to match stripes. See that though? Look at that. I planned that. Right? I can't wait to have this shirt. I really want to donate my other one because it's just a little, I don't know, something about it that it makes me fidgety. I do like that it has 3/4 sleeves though, so I'm thinking I might make this 3/4 sleeves because I've kind of come to count on that shirt in that color for the 3/4 sleeves, you know? Like it works well under a couple of my sweaters. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, I do that same thing, Nancy. Like I use my home machine for zigzag and buttonholes, you know? All right. So same thing. Maybe lightening up my pressure was part of why it worked so well. I have to admit it. Lighter pressure was better. So I'm same thing. I'm kind of pulling it like this. It kind of it makes my fabric behave a little better in instances like this when it's a little bit thick. This isn't very thick. I just mean like it's a little bit more than the rest of the garment. I'm worried about my presser foot pushing this top layer toward me, and then pulling the under layer towards it. That way, that's what creates torquing. I don't want that to happen. And so I am going to make it do this. And I feel like when I curve it, it means that there's just a short distance. There's nowhere for it to move. I don't know. I just feel like that's what I've found successful. That's where the logic is. I just leave the pins in because I don't want to let go. And you don't have to when you pin perpendicular. So there's a lot of different placket styles, like I was saying, and one of them, if you wanted to do what someone would call a budget style placket, quick and dirty, you could fold this in half and then sew it right sides together so that there'd be an exposed seam right there, and then top stitch it down. Yeah, I don't really like that. I don't recommend you do that. But if you were doing like 10 costumes and you needed them really quick, I would totally do that. Oh, it can't be oiled. I hate that when they can't be oiled. Oh, it had a thick creamy grease. Ooh. Yeah, I want complete control of that. I don't think I can oil my home machine either. And it hasn't been, serviced. And so I feel like if I could oil it, I would at least be oiling it. My industrial sits in a pan of oil. Like you tilt this whole head back and then you'd see that there's a steel pan underneath my machine with this much oil in it. And then there's a little bubble on the top of my machine. Let me see if I can show you. Where is it? Right here. You see that? So if I was going really fast, you'd see the oil hit the top of it. I never get to see it do it because if I'm going fast, you can bet I'm watching the needle. All right, so here we go. We did all of the easy bits. Oh, let's top stitch my yokes. I didn't do my front yokes yet. There we go. All right. So here we go. Oh, sorry. That looks pretty good. That's cute. I don't know about the yoke, you guys. But it's fine, it's fine. Okay, and then this will be my collar. Oops. Like this. Yeah? And then my collar. That's cute. I love polka dots. I'm excited. All right, so I will I'll switch my thread and we'll sew some bags. You can see why I don't need to work out now. Because my bags are a workout. I think all of them take cream thread right now. Yeah, I don't know why they do that though, Nancy. Yeah, exactly. I was taught to clean and oil regularly. Thanks, Nancy. I know. And you've heard me say this, like, I really can't stand the fact that you take your machine to get serviced and it takes 2 weeks, and even then they might be late. I can't be without my machines for that long. I think what I'm going to do is talk to them and just say, hey, can I just make an appointment? And then you call me 24 hours or 48 hours before, and then I let it go for them. Oh, I need to change my needle. This is not size 14 needle territory. So, I don't know if I've ever said this, but your needle has a groove on it right here. The groove goes all the way down to the needle hole, and that is always the front. I don't know what I'm going to use for buttons. I don't even think about that. I always, I've trained myself never to think about buttons till I'm completely done. It's kind of the, treat at the end, albeit sometimes kind of a chore too. And then I take it to the store and I pick out buttons based on what it looks like. Because sometimes you don't know what the placket will finish width-wise. Same with sweater knitting. My machine didn't get used much, so there's a little bit of oil right there that I want to get rid of. I don't mind it on my home sewn stuff, but I don't want it on the chicken boot stuff. And it's pretty inert. It doesn't really ever leave a mark, but okay. I need to get rid of my pin cushion. Got my big hefty scissors. I'll move my little ones. Let's see. So I'm going to do a project bag first, and I need 2 ends, one with a pocket, one without. So I usually like have them like on my stand, you know, all lined up. Here's the binding, because yes, these are bound. Oh, I bet you can, Nancy. You can just order them. You can download them for free, maybe. Okay, so this bag is this bag is a project bag, so it's about this big. It's a little hard with this my camera. And it has a divider that I do out of vinyl. It's, you know, you can pass through at the bottom, but nothing really does because you just put big enough things in there. And then, let's see, how do I do that? Does that work? And then I put ends on the bag to make them stand open and upright. And I use this stiffener. See if you can see it. You can see it in here. See this white stiffener? Sewable, washable, not fusible. And that's how all of the bags stand up. So these were made a couple months ago to this point, I think. I think that these were made a couple months ago. And they've just been sitting in the bin. And so then when they get ordered, I do the last step. But lately I've been trying to finish them all up before they get ordered so that they're ready to go. Now I have a feeling they're ordered. So I put the one without the pocket on the side with the divider. No real reason. It's just something I stay consistent with. Is that a little too bright for you guys? What do you think? So I line it up at the top. So it took me forever to figure this out. Like, I really wanted a bag that stood up, and I wanted it to stay open. This bag's washable too, so the fabric's really great. The stiffener's really great. And I wanted it to be like a bucket, you know what I mean, where you could just throw your stuff in and it always stayed open. But sewing the ends was tricky, like figuring it out, because if you cut this at all differently, it gets sewn a little differently along the way. It's not going to line up, because basically what you're doing is you have to have this here fit, across the bottom fit, and then across this fit. And if I just get 1/8 of an inch off here, then this is 1/8 of an inch off, then it ends up doing this at the top. A little bit's okay, but too much is not okay. I have to make sure I catch all the layers in so that the inside doesn't have, you know, too shallow or too big, you know. So I've just gotten good at it. Like, this is one of those things I've sewn a lot of, and I've just gotten better and better. And so when I start the binding, I actually wrap it around the top like this, pretty tight as I can, because it kind of loosens when I start moving it under my needle. This is gonna be, it's gonna look clunky for me to sew, because I usually do this without thinking, and explaining it makes makes me slower. Yes, it is Louise. Sorry, I just like almost choked. And so right now I like make sure there's no threads going this way, because taking them out later is a pain in the butt when they're inside the bag. Like, sew it at a 1/4 inch seam, because this is 1 3/8 inch bias. And you're gonna see, I really treat this bag roughly. I am the boss of this bag right now. This is what I had to learn sewing these, is that I am the boss, and I really need it to do what I'm telling it to do. Otherwise, it's gonna fight back. I'm just gonna turn down the brightness a little bit. It's so bright. That's better, eh? I like that. Okay. That's a little better, huh? Yeah, so I use 1/4 inch seam, or the width of my presser foot, really. And when I get down here, I know that this piece needs to go past this seam here about 1/4 inch, because that's the pivot point. But you can see, like, this is a little shy. I don't know if you can see that. I can bring my camera down now that I'm not trying to hold the bag up. A little better. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit shallower right there. I'm looking at that lining. I know it's a little shy, so I'm trying to give it enough seam allowance. So then I pivot it, and see, I'm keeping the bag flat. Like, I'm really pushing down hard. I'm not really anymore, but I make sure that it sits flat without pulling apart any of the seams. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up like this, push the seam at the bottom right here towards the center of the bag. I'm going to mash it down again, just like this. And make sure that this seam along the bottom of the bag is pushed towards the bottom. So this piece is looking a little narrow right now. It happens. It was either cut a little bit, or sewn a little inaccurate, combination of the two. I can get away with a little bit as long as I don't go too short where the fabric is concerned, so that the fabric doesn't show. And so I have a little bit mismatched right there. And so the way I can deal with this, typically I don't have to. I'm going to back it up a little bit. I'm just going to show you guys all the steps on how this, getting 3-dimensional bags is so hard. So when people do it, pay for it. That's my advice. Oh, really? Oh. Yep, I only use one type of stiffener. Just this. And I'm going to be selling it too. I have about 600 yards left. It's what I use in the closet organizer, all that. So the way I can reclaim some of the length of this, because I need it to be longer, is I need to cut this seam to the left a little bit. I'm going to get rid of some of these threads because I don't want them to poke out through under the bag. Make sure that seam gets pushed down there. And then I rotate it again. So I reclaimed a little bit, and I'm going to mash it down again. Make sure all of my layers are in the seam allowance. I cut the tail a little bit higher, and then I wrap it around like this. This one's not that great. It's within my tolerance, but you know, it could be better. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim all this right here. In a perfect world, there would be nothing to trim. But because there are 3 layers, there's a lining, an outer fabric, and a stiffener, and lots of steps in the process where this can get awry, there's definitely trimming. I need to trim this so that when I bind it, it all fits inside the binding, because my binding is quite narrow, as binding goes. I usually do it over the trash can. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check. I look inside. I make sure everything is good. I pull it apart really hard because I really want to make sure that nothing's going to happen. Carol. Oh, nice, Olivia. I'm glad. Yeah, I do choose all the fabrics. This one was a bit of a whim People aren't into it as much as I am. I think it's cute. This fabric designer has a cult following. She's really, really popular, called Tokyo Milk. I can't remember her name. I had someone come into my booth so excited that I have the girl version of this. And she bought a bunch of stuff in it. All right, so same thing. I'm telling the bag that I am the boss here, and this is what I wanted to do. If the bag can't handle me sewing it this roughly, I wouldn't put it out in the world. When Rayanne first worked for me, I'd hoped that she would take over this bag and all my things, right? But that was about the time that I just had this huge growth spurt, and so I had to continue to sew. Yeah, I don't think it would. I don't know, Ida. I'm going to try on my home machine. People want these patterns, but I'm like, I'm not sure home machines can sew it. But, so I continued to sew this, and when I finally was like, you have to learn how to do these. I kept teaching her, and I realized, like, how hard they kind of are. Rayanne could sew really well, but she hadn't been sewing as long, you know. So she didn't have the kind of years of experience behind her, and she was busy sewing all the other things we make. So when she finally did get to doing these and practicing on them, okay, I'll back up a little bit. Rayanne works out 6 days a week. No joke. She is hardcore. She works out 6 days a week, and she works out hard. And when she first started sewing these, she got so sore. Her upper body got so sore. I felt so justified and vindicated. I was like, yes, I knew these are hard. All right, so the thing I remember when I'm sewing these together is to pay attention to the seam allowance. That's the smallest, like, meaning, see how this layer of fabric right here is creeping that way past the interfacing. Say it was way over here. I have to respect that, and I have to go by that as the cut edge for the seam line. I will, Jeannie. Yeah, I'm going to, and I haven't started that yet, but I do plan on releasing some of my patterns for sale. Which ones are you interested in? I'm kind of curious what people want, because I do feel like they're so hard to sew that I don't know why people would want to sew them. So I'm just going to cut this one over the trash can. I've been sewing this bag. This is one of my first designs. So I've been sewing it the longest. So yeah, so I just trimmed that. Now I'm going to check it again and make sure. So now I'm going to do the binding part. And so I pull this over like this. And now, again, I have to make the bag, you know, behave. So I'm going to pull the binding like this over all the corners. So now it's ready to go. And so, like I say when I bind, and I'm teaching people to bind, I can see my first seam right there, right? That's where I sewed it the first time when I attached this. So I know that if my needle is to the left of that, it's going to show on the left of the seam. I don't want that, right? I know that if it's to the right of that, I'm in danger of not covering the seam. So I need to make sure that when I fold the bias, it covers the seam and that my needle stays to the right of it. And this is why my awl has become so important to me. So I tether it down there. So this is what I did at the top there. So see, remember I folded that edge over? I fold it down a corner like that, and then I fold it in like I'm sewing it down. So the only thing I'm doing, instead of just doing this, the reason I don't do this is that I get this little tail out here. That's all. So the only thing new I'm doing is I fold it down on the corner. And this kind of takes a knack. Sometimes it looks better than other times. So now I hold it there at the awl. I would never in a million years pin this. Okay, so now I'm folded it, and see how it's a little shallow? Because it's biased, it's going to stretch, and I'm going to pull it over there. So I'm going to take the fold just past this first seam, but my needle's going to go where the seam is or to the right of the seam, my right. Yeah, you don't, Ida. And you know, you could try something with a smooth fabric so that the fiber doesn't grab. Oh, I have the buckets behind me. I have to sew those too. Those are smaller, but they're a little harder. So they're kind of, each one has its pluses and minuses. I would rather sew project bags because they're lighter weight, but it is a bigger bag to handle. So now I'm going to do one stitch at a time. This new machine does not like the thickness of these corners. Like my old one just ate it up. It was great. So look at this. I'm pushing the bag. If you could see the whole bag, look at it. Like I am the boss of this thing, right? So now, so my binding isn't folded here, but I folded it on that corner early on. So now I'm going to tuck it, use my awl, one stitch at a time, just like that. And as long as you have enough of a fold, it's okay if your stitch isn't right against the fold. So now see, I kind of straighten it out, and then I make my corner, fold it under like that. I kind of do this triangle origami thing, see? That makes it lay the flattest. And the bags never look like I've done all this to them. And I know to pivot about where the seam juncture is. Oh, I'm glad you bought the same awl. You push your finger and it's hard, yeah. Pushing with my finger is not as accurate. That's why I use the awl. And I don't have to worry. I don't sew myself. And most sewers don't sew themselves. I know people worry about that, but the last time I sewed myself was such a weird instance, and it was because I was using the binding machine and I was pulling, I was binding this fabric that was printed by Spoon Flower. And when you have fabric printed, there's a lot of ink sitting on the surface, and so it's a little tackier. I had to, so it was dragging, and so I was pulling the binding as I was binding in the machine to kind of release the pressure of the machine, because the machine was going like really tiny stitches, so I was kind of pulling it along, and my thumb got under there. What? It was kind of the worst I'd ever sewn it too. I did that last year. That's awesome, Jeannie. Yeah, I think the pattern holder would be a good one. It's my most requested product. I'm really surprised. I've had a few offers of people wanting to buy my business and buy my patterns, and I think that's the thing they should be asking for, is the pattern holder. Don't tell anyone. The pattern holder is the pattern people should be begging me for. It's my best-selling product. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's one of the harder ones to sew because it has to be precise, and it's the one I have the most seconds on because it has to be so precise. It's rare that I sell a second of a pattern holder, and that's just because even the seconds I wouldn't allow out there. So I don't like this little messy edge there, so I'm definitely going to pull my folded edge past that, where that tail of the binding started. And the reason I push all this down is that I just don't want it to interfere with the machine head. I don't want it to push on my presser foot or my back tack. I have a little miniature back tack right there, and sometimes the bag will grab it, you know. So now, before I get to the corner, I fold it up. And it wants to stay like that because it's taut. When I sewed the binding on there in the first place, I pulled it a little bit. I didn't mention that because I just forget I do that. But I pulled a little bit so that it wants to turn to the other side. You know, Louise, I'm not sure. I know it's terrible. I think this is my 10th year. It's either my 9th, 10th, or 11th year. Sorry, I don't remember. Isn't that terrible? I'm just one of those people. I'm so in the moment. Almost in a bad way. And I'm not as sentimental as I would like to be. I'm just like, it's a business. Why would I be sentimental over that? you know? All right. This was where I took out that one, so there's some threads here, and I just want them gone. I don't want them to sneak out. I don't want them to be a problem later. Definitely don't want them on the inside of the bag. Sometimes when you take out a seam and you leave the threads behind and they get caught in the new seam, they're harder to remove than you think. You know, they're not just little like thread snips. So I just try and prevent that. I try and make it so that once it's leaving my machine, all the quality control is completely done. I don't have to worry about it. It gets tagged and it gets put on the shelf. We don't have an extra person doing quality control. Sometimes we've had people tagging here, but they wouldn't be qualified enough to know what constitutes a sewing flaw because they're not sewers themselves. So this is my opportunity to look for that. And I know right where my machine leaves tails, these scissors are not small enough. So it leaves them there and right there. My start and my stop. And there it is. So now it is a 3-dimensional bag. It has a little document pocket for a pattern right there. And then it has an inside vinyl pocket, which is part of this divider. So the divider, I kind of changed over the years how it's sewn. And that was one of my more genius changes, because it used to be a little piece of stiffener covered in fabric that I had to make and then attach in there, and it was so tricky. I think I even started where it was sewn on the bottom, but then I realized that that's not necessary, because people are usually putting yarn or a water bottle or a needle case or something like that. Little tiny things wouldn't just get tossed in the bag, right? You just wouldn't do that. So that's why the other pocket's there. So here, I'll do a pocket bucket. So the challenge with this one is the fact that there's vinyl. So this one is the same thing. It's a smaller bag, but it's got 3 pockets here that are pleated and gusseted. I try and keep it away from the seam here. The vinyl's kind of chilly in here, so it's a little like stiff, and it wants to sneak into the seam like that. That's a second waiting to happen, and it does happen. This side only has 2 pockets, and then the ends have 1 pocket on each side. They're a little wrinkled, but the vinyl warms up and it's fine. So I kind of look it over, make sure that nothing is sneaking out of the seam first, because it's nice to identify an issue before you get any further. So I feel like there was a long time where I wouldn't look, because I would think it's fine. And then it's because I wanted it to be fine, right? And I think I'm a really honest person, and that didn't sit well with me. And I realized it's because I wasn't really being honest with myself. Like, look at it now, Sarah. Look at it before it's an issue that you can't do anything about. I would much rather throw this away now if there's an issue than after I've put this amount of labor into it that I'm about to put into it. I know, right? I know, they're cute, huh? So on this one, because of the angle, I can't do my nifty little pull it over technique. I just leave it hanging there. I just leave a little bit. That's a little too much, but it's okay. And then here's a good example. Like, I have this little how-to video up on lining up your seams, and this is a really great example of why you do it on the seam line, because you see how this is an angle and this one's straight out. The seam line is 1/4 inch, right? So I want to line it up, these 2 pieces right here at the top where the seam line is. I don't want to line up the cut edges. The reason being is if I line up the cut edges, this little bit is hanging above the seam. This isn't very drastic, but if this was a 1/2 inch seam allowance, that would be a really big drastic amount sticking above the seam. And then the whole thing wouldn't sew together. It would be short on one end. So unless you designed it to be able to be done that way. So I always sew it from the end And it's just the way I used to sew it on this side, you know, like I started like this. And then I went to this way. I do not remember why now. It's just a preference. I think I felt like I was more accurate more of the time, and I had to worry about less from this direction. Same with the project bag. I also feel like I really like to finish the seam, do the last stitch on the side of the bag that you're going to see the most. Bye, Trinka. See ya. So, yeah, so this would be the side that it's going to finish on. All right, so back stitch there, get it going. You can see, like, there's thicknesses. There's vinyl, fabric, stiffener, fabric, plus binding, and then binding, and it's going to have the folds of the binding, too. So it really stacks up the layers. This is probably the pattern I get asked the most to people that want to sew it themselves. They want the pattern for, and it's probably the hardest one because you also have to deal with the vinyl. This machine, it doesn't like the vinyl as much as my old machine does, and I can feel it slipping underneath. I know, right, Louise? It's like, it's kind of funny. I remember thinking that too, like when I thought of seams as the seam line, not the cut edge. It's really important in fitting. Okay, so I'm flattening out my bag. See, so this, now it's becoming three-dimensional. When I pull it over, line up the edge, and I'm pivoting at the seam line on the corner there. I'm pushing the vinyl underneath, making sure it doesn't get caught. I'm pushing this seam towards the bottom of the bag. I think it looks nicer that way. And I'm going to pivot 1/4 inch away from this cut edge, about right there. Now I rotate the bag. I mash it down like this. I make sure all the layers are smooth underneath. And look at that. It lines up pretty darn good. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll show you once it gets on camera there. So the thing I have to worry about on this is the pockets on this side. These pleated pockets creeping into the seam. That's the one thing that happens a lot. So I'm pushing it, holding it down, making sure it's not sneaking back because I'm the boss, right? And sometimes it tells me, nope, I'm the boss. Like that. And then I leave a tail about that much. And now I'm going to trim it. I'm going to hold, see this pleat right here? I'm going to hold this back while I trim. The thing I worry about when I'm trimming is when I get around the corner, I don't want to accidentally trim this bound edge there. I've done that a couple times and it ruins the entire bag. Just trimming this is a workout. Especially, you know, these bags have been sitting in the bin for a little bit, so they get a little mashed and little folds and patterns start happening where it wants to do that, you know, wants to sit that direction. So I really have to make sure none of those layers get underneath and that I don't clip myself. They are llamas, they're not alpacas, but people call them alpacas. It's fine. I actually consulted. Yeah, exactly, Leia. I consulted with someone before because I was going to call this fabric alpacas. And then I asked my friend. She goes, no, they're llamas. All right, so I have to make sure that I don't get the strap twisted, right? Because I could end up doing it this way and have a twist in the strap. And I look inside the bag, make sure all the corners, all the fabric's in there. There's no, like, bubbles happening. And now I do the other side. Line it up at the seam line there. And I just get it started and then I smooth out the rest. It's a little trickier. I don't want it to move. But once I have it under there, it's not going anywhere on my machine. My machine is so strong. Yeah, they really were having a moment, weren't they, Louise? This was a cotton and steel fabric that came out about a year and a half ago. And then we cut and sewed it for spring 2018, I think. So we were cutting and sewing it like fall of 2017 for spring of 2018. And I have a few things left in it. Okay, so I like to push. What I'm doing is I'm pushing this seam open this way. What is this thread here? That's just threads, right? Yeah, okay. So I'm pushing it like this. Just a second, I have UPS here. Hi. Do you need a signature? Nope. Awesome. What's that? You got 3. Oh, awesome. Yeah, boxes. Thank you. So yeah, so then I push this past the seam right there. I keep this flat right there to keep it open and nice and smooth right there. And I'm going to pivot right there at the corner. Rotate this in, keep the bag flat just like that. Alpacas are more like sheep. I know. Wait. Alpacas are more like sheep, if you will, and alpacas are more like camels. They kind of are. Dromedaries, right? I don't know what dromedary means, but that's their class. I don't know. I used to, when I managed sheep at the farm I worked on, there was a llama, and he was our shepherd. So he was kind of the guardian of our flock. His name was Salvador Dali Llama. And he was fierce. You mean llamas are more like camels? Yeah, exactly. Llamas are more like camels, and alpacas are more like sheep. That's interesting. Yeah, so the first time they got a llama, everybody was so enamored on the farm. This is before I was there. So everyone that lived there came and saw the llama and pet the llama and talked to the llama. And then the llama was like, I don't care about the sheep. I only care about humans. They had to trade him in because he was not watching the sheep. He just wanted to hang out with the humans. Then they decided, we'll get 2. They got 2, and they were into each other. They didn't care about the sheep. Then they got Salvador, and they were like, nobody touch him. He is the sheep guardian, and we had mountain lions, so we had need something, and he worked out really well, but he was kind of terrifying sometimes. I would have to trim his hooves occasionally. Not a job I'm signing up for. Again, I didn't mind doing the sheep and the goats. I didn't really have to do the sheep, honestly. I had to do the goats and Sal because they were animals that lived on our farm year-round. They weren't harvested for meat. It wasn't a fiber farm. We sold the fiber, but it was like Corriedale and Suffolk. Not the best for fiber. Okay, I'm ready to go. Making sure it's not sitting wonky. You don't want your bag to start doing this little thing. I know, the name's funny. Oh, that guy was so good at naming things. His dog had this really long name. I swear it was like 10 names. And all I remember is he called her Josie. She was like she looked like a miniature standard collie. So like she was little. She was quite annoying. Her name was Josie, but her real name was something like Major Crucial something Josephina. Or MC Josephina. We called her Josie. All right, doing my same little trick. And look, none of it's lining up. You see this? Like, how am I possibly going to get that to do that? But I have my awl, and it's on the bias. It's all going to be fine. So I'm mashing my bag down so it doesn't get in my way. I'm going to pull this tail over to the right. And I can pull that tail in with the awl and those little thread tails, just like that. Just do a little bit here and there, and then it all gets in there. Fold it on my corner. A little tight on the corner. And all the same rules apply. Put the fold just past the seam. Make sure my vinyl pocket on this side isn't creeping out into the seam. I'm going to push this corner like this. And I can use my awl to kind of smooth it down there. Just like that. And one year, I was just telling this story. It was so interesting. There was, they belong to the family of camelids, all of them, alpacas, llamas, and dromedaries. Oh, okay. Good to know. The all is my magic wand. A sheltie. Thank you, Nancy. One year, we had this family that helped us with our horses. We had draft horses to do some of our duties and also to haul things to neighboring farms. They were kind of more of a novelty because we were trying to support the idea of bringing back draft horses for some farm labor rather than using machinery all the time, especially when you're using machinery around other animals, the fumes, the gas, all that stuff. So anyway, we had this family helping us with our horses. They were quite brilliant. They had this teenage daughter who had done a course in something called the Tellington Touch, which you never hear of anymore. There's probably something else that people do with their animals now, but it was a gentle way to handle animals without force or holding them or anything. And when she heard how it had gone the last time we had trimmed Sal's hooves, she said, "Oh, I'll send my daughter over. He'll trim his hooves by herself." She did. But when I did it, it took 3 of the livestock crew holding him. And we kind of let him sit down on the ground. And then we just kind of make sure he stays that way. And we would face him away from us. Otherwise, he'd be spitting on us the entire time. And you want them to eat before they spit on you rather than not eat, because you would rather the alfalfa be fresh that he's spitting on you than old. There's my tip of the day. Yeah, animal nerd alert. That's awesome, Leia. Please school us. I mean, I worked on a farm and I don't even know. I feel like I knew at one point and I don't. So anyway, their teenager comes. She's like 16. Really nice girl. Don't remember her name. Not very talkative. And she was like, "Oh, okay, where is he? Oh, okay." And then like before I knew it, she was leaving. I was like, did you do it? She's like, "Oh yeah." When I had trimmed his hooves, the post that he had been facing was green from all the spit afterward, and he wasn't happy with us for a really long time. When she did it, she just like touched him in a gentle way, made so much sense, and he just let her do it. This is so weird. This is awesome. Okay. Do my 2 little threads. I kind of give it a once over because of the vinyl. I don't want the stitching to creep too far on there. That's okay. It's hand sewn, right? There are things that aren't okay with me that other people don't mind, but that is okay. These are a little thready because they've been sitting in the bin. But those bags behind me are all I have left to sew. So it's not too bad. It's like 10 minutes per bag when I'm just doing it and not chatting. 10 minutes, but you know, that's the actual sewing time, not the handling time. So I kind of allow 12 when I'm trying to figure out how much I can do before I go for the day or whatever. I do a few each day. I can feel my tag pushing up against this vinyl, so I'm just making sure. I put the corner up. I'll do this corner now too. Fold this. See, when I push it away, it wants to fold a little easier. And keep the bag really strong. Like my hands are really pushing on all this. They're really strong from doing this for so many years. Like when my husband or my daughter asked for a little massage, they had to tell me to calm down. But my hands are so wrecked too, on the flip side. My hands are wrecked. This is just one of the many things that has wrecked my hands. The major one being the rotary knife. Rotary knife cutting, when I used to do it for production, really damaged the nerves in my shoulder and arm and hand. Cautionary tale. Nothing is ergonomic, especially a rotary knife. Nothing is ergonomic that you do all the time with the exact same tool you have to change. Learned a lot. And I got a stack cutter, so I'm not re-injuring myself all the time, but it's not far away when I start just the rotary knife cutting. I feel it. So the thing I worry about the most with this bag is those vinyl pockets, these little pleated vinyl pockets creeping out underneath when I can't feel it. Especially because they've been sitting in the bin, so they have a little bit of wrinkles and they new learned creases that they want to take up. Okay. So same thing with my folding. Because I don't already have it pre-folded, I just do that plus the corner, plus the fold over, and a fold over again. There we go. I go past up here because remember this wasn't sewn, so I go all the way up to here. I had one and then I had a factory and they had a lot. So I had a little factory here of me and another gal, and then I hired a factory, and they usually had a small crew working on my stuff all at once. They would put the entire floor on it. It wasn't a small crew. It was kind of a big crew. Or they would just use a small crew for a longer period of time. But then they closed without telling me. They've doubled my prices, then closed. So, you know, things happen. Okay, so here's this little bag. It's more of like a craft bucket. I don't really like this. One of our machines was doing this funny little thing, adding this little loop after a back tack, and it makes me doubt the back tack, so I've had to check it, and it's fine. It made me nervous for a little while there. I saw one on this side too. It was just a little quirk one of our machines did for a little while. So it stands up straight. It's got 7 pockets, and then that way it's got this little handle. So crafting is not ergonomic, Ida, right? Oh, wait. So that's it. All right, you guys, that was fun. We were live for a while. I'm not sure I'll keep this stream up or not. It was just more of a fun chatting thing. I might. I guess I will, because we're going to do the archer. I think I'll be here Saturday. And I'll let you know. I'm planning on it. 11 a.m. Saturday here, Pacific. And I'm really sorry to anyone who looked for me last week and I wasn't there. I'm trying to figure out a way still to let you guys know of my schedule when I'm not here. Like, I know I let you know. And maybe I post on Instagram. But I'm not sure. Like, I think I can say I have a live stream happening and then I don't go live and it'll notify people. Like, oh, hey, here she's not going to be live, but it notifies you I'm live. I don't know, it's weird. So I'm figuring it out. There is that communities tab on my YouTube page where I could do that, but I don't think people check that. Like, I wouldn't think to check that. YouTube isn't really like a website. It's kind of weird, don't you think? I mean, it's a website, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not a web page. So hopefully we'll figure something out that works for all of us. And we'll definitely have a Facebook thing going, and then we have the Instagram thing. I just don't know how many things I can manage at once. So we'll see, right? So make sure you tag me on Instagram when you want me to see something. I really want to see what you guys do. Or use the hashtag #SoSoLive so I can see it. Or something that if we've inspired you or someone here has inspired you to do something, we want to see. And then I'm going to try and stream throughout this whole move because I just want to. I don't really want to lose our momentum. We're really getting some people here, which is really great. It's really fun. So I still have lots of things, fabrics to sew. I have this boiled wool that I probably should sew up before it becomes too warm out. Like here, it's going to start getting warm in the next couple months. So I really want to get some use out of it. So I'm going to think about what I want to make it in. I could do another tamarack jacket, but we already made that. And I would like to use it either as my lining or something else. So, all right, guys, thanks for just stopping by. I know this was totally spontaneous. I really am glad you're here, and I missed you guys. And good job on all your Mountain View pull-on jeans. They look awesome. We learned so much. I'm definitely making another pair, and I'm definitely making more gingers. There's more denim at Blackbird Fabrics right now, so I ordered a bunch of that. That was a total splurge. And yeah, definitely, Nancy. I will definitely, Ida. I will definitely do a tour. I thought I had a new video of it, but it didn't have the floor completely done. But apparently it is. I'm going to make an appointment to go over there. I'm going to start moving stuff soon. I've just got to do it, right? I've still got to sell all the materials. You know, like I have like bias rolls. Like, you should see the wall right here that I'm looking at is covered in rolls of bias like that. Yeah, bye, Louise. I have huge rolls of stiffener, lots of zipper. So if you're interested, if you're like a more of a production sewer and you are looking for volume, check out the tab on my website that says 2019 changes. On my website, you can just do soso.live. I've changed the web address, or chickenbootsusa.com. And at the very bottom of that 2019 changes tab, at the very bottom, there's a little icon of a chicken saying, let it sew, let it sew, let it sew. That will take you to, if you click it, it'll take you to a newsletter that will notify you of when I'm selling materials, which is really soon. I'm trying. So, bye guys. Thanks. Yay, Nancy. Gingers, you can do it. Yeah, I do too. I want to make a boiled wool coat. I just like boiled wool too. It's kind of boucle-ish. And it's like a rust orange. I want it with a navy blue. I gotta find something. I want an outer fabric with it. I don't know. Like that fox. The fox I put in my pocket line. I'm not gonna do that. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your Thursday, Friday, wherever you are in the world. And see you soon. I'm most likely going to be here Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific. And happy sewing. Take care. Bye.